Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but it's not so stable, unfortunately. Okay, we are on. Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining this last panel discussion of the Market Photo Workshop and the WordPress Photo. Very thrilled to be with great people today again. Today we're going to speak about new platforms for new voices and building new platform for new voices. And we're going to touch upon online publishing, support network, community building, especially talking about this year, what we all been through and are going through due to the pandemic. So today we are being joined by Casey Nkwalor, who is independent photographer and founder of No Wahala magazine. Vashera Njagi, who is coordinator at Everyday Africa, and Etinosa Yvonne, who is an independent photographer, and myself, Juliet Garms, who is the program and outreach manager at WordPress Photo. So I will properly introduce all the panelists. So Vashera Njagi is a visual artist and editor currently based in Kenya. They produce diverse visual stories and creatorial studio projects in their role of Everyday Africa coordinator at the Everyday Projects. Vashera is a proponent of centering the Black image in varied media with experience in visual development, publishing, and layout design. Alongside the Everyday Projects community team, they have supported collaborative digital reportage and editorial projects exploring creative design with teams at RCRC, HuffPost, and WordPress Photo Foundation. Wasera is also a comic book artist and produces multimedia mixed media stories. Thank you for joining. Etinosa Ivan is a self-taught documentary photographer and visual artist born and brought up in Nigeria. She works with various art forms, including photos and videos. The primary focus of her work is on exploring and expressing themes related to the human condition and social injustice. Etinosa is one of the 6 talents selected for the 2020 cycle of the WordPress Photo 6x6 Africa Talent. She has received grants from Women Photograph, National Geographic in partnership with Lagos Photo, and Access Bank ArtX for her projects It's All in My Head. She recently collaborated with the UN Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency on a digital storytelling series that highlights the story of 16 girls and women, which is an extension of her ongoing multimedia projects. Etinosa's works have been shown in several local and international exhibitions. Her work have been published in several international publications. Etinosa currently resides in Abuja, Nigeria. Casey Nkwalor is an independent documentary photojournalist based in Abuja, Nigeria, but works extensively across West Africa. His work aims to humanize real issues, mostly socio-economic, health, and environmental within the region. He is the co-founder of No Wahala magazine, a photography publication in print which champions authentic visual stories told by African creatives. And he is also a professional member of the African Photojournalism Database, and Diversify Photo. His work has been featured in numerous publications like the New York Times, Bloomberg, Business Week, Financial Times, to mention a few. So welcome everyone. I think Etinosa is having some internet issues, so hopefully we can still hear from her, but we will we'll go to you last for the presentation while you can maybe improve the connection. So this panel discussion came about while thinking of all these online and offline new initiatives promoting African photographers to the world and also on the continent everywhere, which are breaking away from simplifying representations of the continent and giving space to share their stories beyond the barriers of an exclusive media industry. And so today we're going to focus on which platforms have been pivotal to this change and creating a new space for new voices, and what stories, audiences, and responses have they drawn. What challenges and successes have they faced, and what purposes do they share beyond the publishing aspects, and that we're going to touch upon community building, support network, those platforms are also nurturing. So we're going to discuss all these questions in relation to the current pandemic and how it has changed the way we work and we interact with each other. So now I would like to leave the floor to Casey, Varsera, and Etinosa, who have prepared a little presentation to introduce what they're doing. So maybe, Casey, would you like to start with sharing your screen?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, a moment. I need to find, yeah. Sorry. You know, all this new technology and stuff. Yeah, okay. Yeah, can everyone see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Juliet, for having me on board for this panel discussion. I'm a documentary photojournalist and a co-founder of No Wahala magazine. You know, my work is centered around issues. So I try to humanize real issues within the continent, mostly West Africa. And these issues are bordering around socioeconomic issues, environmental and health issues. I don't really know how to talk so much about my work, but yeah, like, you know, those are like the type of projects that I've worked on. And at the moment, I'm also developing like a personal project around fatherhood. You know, something very, very personal to me. So it's something I'm really working on at the moment. But you know, I'm here also to speak about No Wahala magazine, which I co-founded with my wife, who is the founding editor of the magazine. And you know, the essence of the magazine is basically to showcase authentic visual stories by African creatives. And you know, No Wahala we just recently launched our first issue that was printed, and that's the cover over there. And the theme was safe place. You know, kind of, you know, it has been a crazy year. Everyone has been, you know, dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, and more than ever, we kind of seek a safe place. And for this project, you know, we try to like, you know, highlight visual stories that kind of embrace the theme. But yeah, what No Wahala magazine is about is basically to serve as a platform where photographers within the continent can come and learn, can show their work, and also where they can be seen. And you know, we started the magazine in early this year during the peak of the of the pandemic, and it was also for us like a response to the time, and we kind of hope to. I mean, we searched for magazines to see whether Africa has a lot of magazines, and sadly, we didn't see much that are homegrown. So, for this magazine, we hope to see it kind of champion stories from the continent and the photographers that tell them. So the word "no wahala" is a popular slang in Nigeria that means no problem. So it's more like, no problems. We can tell our own stories, no wahala. There are lots and lots of photographers, that are locals that can tell the stories, So yeah, it's basically to showcase work, to inspire, and to educate. So yeah, I hope that wasn't too short or too long. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Thank you. We'll come back to No Wahala. And yeah, I actually was wondering about what the title meant. I love it.
Yeah.
We'll go to Vashera. We also prepared a little introduction. So go ahead.
Hey there, my name is Vashera, currently based in just outside of Nairobi in Kirinyaga. And I'm very excited to be sharing some of the work that we've been working on at Everyday Projects and Everyday Africa. So I'll share some of the new projects we've had the opportunity to produce this year. This year, I think to me, Everyday Africa is a collective.
I think she froze. Vashera, you here? Oh, Vashera? Oh, I think she has internet issues. Tinosa, how are you doing with your internet?
It's terrible. I managed to get on my computer and then it went off and then I'm back to the phone.
I think Vashera is trying to like re-access Zoom.
Yeah.
But it's okay. We are here. we can manage this. Maybe we give her a few minutes. I think she's going to reconnect. But I imagine you also. Oh, she's back. I think. Vashera, are you back?
Sorry about that.
No problem.
No, that's okay.
Internet is a bit iffy.
Just start where you left us.
Cool. So I guess I'll just do this fast. Everyday Africa is a collective of African photographers who work to make truthful and localized stories that just lets the world know that we can produce a varied image about the continent made by the people, and without outsourcing it from the West. Some of the cool projects that we've had the opportunities to produce this year are as follows. We worked with Catchlight, Disturb, and the JSK Fellowship to produce a COVID-19 response to which we shared in the community. And there are several artists across the world, both who work with the visual art, either photography, illustration, and we got to put their work on big print as well as on digital to inform people around the globe how to take care of themselves during the pandemic. Another project that we got to work on that we are pretty proud of was Then and Now, which are constituting of diptychs made by Everyday Africa photographers. So it was a multimedia project, and we got to work with augmented reality to show images that were made in the past and contrasting with images that were made this year, just to show the difference that the pandemic has brought in public art spaces. Another cool project that we got to work on at Everyday Africa is a collaboration with NPR's Goats and Soda. So we produced a series of articles, and some of these are works made by Sarah Waiswa and Godwin Othiambo, who are based in Kenya at the moment. And these stories just got to tell the varied reactions of the photographers during the pandemic, and that are not restricted to just the Medicare response, but also the home-based responses and communal responses that the photojournalists recorded. Another project that we worked on was with the Pulitzer Center of Crisis Reporting, and we produced a project that showed the community response towards the alleged increase of teenage pregnancies in Kenya. And in collaboration with Sarah Iswa, we produced a story that showcased how young people in Kenya are supporting their young sisters to make sure that they're protected from sexual predators during the time that they were out of school, but due to the COVID-19 school mandated closure, the COVID-19 mandated school closures. So yeah, those are some of the projects that we worked on. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Bashara. Echinosa, how is your connection at the moment?
Okay, so I'm currently connected to my computer and my phone. So I'm going to talking on my phone, and I'm going to share my screen on my computer.
Okay.
I hope that it works out well.
Let's try that.
Let's try it and see if it's going to work out. Yeah. Can you see my screen?
So, yes.
Oh,
yes, that
okay.
works. Let's go.
Oh, okay, good. I tricked technology. Okay, so I'm going to say one. Well, first off, my internet almost threw me off balance, but I'm happy that things are working out well. I'm a documentary photographer and visual artist. Working and living in Nigeria, as Juliet had mentioned. Excited to be a part of this. I'll just briefly talk about my project. So the first image that you see is from an ongoing project that I call It's All in My Head. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
All right, so I'm going to keep doing this just to be sure that I haven't been caught up. So it explores the coping mechanisms of survivors of terrorism and extreme instances of conflict and cruelty. I started the project, I used the project to advocate for increased access to psychosocial support, which I personally believe would improve the mental health and well-being of the survivors. I began working on the project in 2018, traveling to different states in Nigeria. It started off, as a picture project, but because the project deals with emotions, I needed to find ways in which I can continue to express some of the things that the emotions of the people. Then it became a multi.
Oh, you're back. Oh, the screen sharing stuff, but I think it's coming back now. It's okay. Take your time. There's no rush.
Okay, I think it's back now, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it started off just using a set of layered images, and the reason that I use layered images is just to be able to get people to see, what's going on in the state of mind of the survivors. But then it became increasingly difficult to continue to objectify their feelings because it's feelings. It can't be taught. It's intangible. So I started to think of ways in which I could present the work, and then it became a multimedia project. I started incorporating motion, sound into the project. To a very large extent, I think that there's so much work to be done. I continue to work on this project, and while I haven't really seen the type of change that I would have loved to see, because we all know change doesn't come easy. But I'm very happy that I recently collaborated with the United Nations Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency, which to me was an avenue to be able to get, work with a platform that gives more visibility to the project, so that, to raise awareness of what is happening. For this extension, what I did was to work with 16, I think my screen is not sharing.
Go on.
I worked with 16 girls and women in the northeast of Nigeria, and to understand how gender-based violence affects their mental health, just so that we can call for more, first and foremost, to see how we can eliminate GBV. Secondly, to see how we can, improve access to psychosocial support for these women, because these women are hurting and all of that. I continue to work on the project. It's evolving. I'm expanding the scope of the project. Before, it used to be restricted to survivors of terrorism and violent conflict, but now I have, redefined it to become terrorism and extreme instances of conflict and cruelty, because there are different ways, different subject matter that I'm looking at. It's a project that I've been doing for a long time, across different countries, across different continents, as I continue to understand, mental health. Then I talk about my body of work. I think that when I say that my project expresses things that have to do with human condition and social injustice, because I don't think that I can be boxed up, even if I know that a lot of times there's a tendency for people to box me up. But I think that personally, as an artist, my interest continues to change. The way that I'm greatly inspired by my environment, my conversations, and just really little things. So personally, I feel like using that word, human condition and social injustice, sort of gives me this platform to say it makes people know that I can work on different things. So during the pandemic, I started going for walks. The pandemic was really tough. It's been tough for everybody. It was really tough for me, especially mentally, because I didn't see it coming. No one saw it coming anyway. And then I started to go for walks, and then I found the bird nest doing one of my walks, and it was so beautiful, and I just found it interesting. I normally like to pick objects. I started doing that a while back. I just pick objects that I find interesting, and I found this bird nest, and it looked so good. And then I put it on my face, and it looked like a face mask. And I was like, oh, this looks good. This looks like an alternative face mask. If we remember correctly, when the lockdown started to happen across the globe, there was, panic buying. And then there was shortage of necessary items that we really need. There was shortage of sanitizer, there was shortage of masks and all of that. And so I took this mask and I put it on my face, and I sat down in front of the mirror. I was like, what if this was a mask? This was an alternative to mask. So then I started this project, which I call Protect Thyself. Here is one of the images from the series. It's just a witty expression, nothing serious, nothing confirmed by any health authority, but it was me saying, what if we could use objects in our environment or things in our environment to protect ourselves, So here you see two hands playing with lemon, and for me, lemon could act as a sanitizer. After all, we use it they put it in some of these things that we use for home cleaning. Well, that's just my take on that anyway. And then working on it all in my head has sort of changed my life especially in the way that I view mental health. I think that I have seen myself progress from being this very insensitive person. Growing up, I'm a Christian, and growing up in the church, the way that the church is. Hello, am I there? Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, I just want to be sure that I'm not talking to myself. Growing up as a Christian, especially the way that the Nigerian society and the religious bodies talk about issues with mental health, it's actually really depressing. Now I see it as depressing, because I understand that mental health is not the way that, we are made to understand that it is. So before now, if somebody comes to tell me, oh, I have issues, I think I'm depressed, I didn't even understand what depression was, or PTSD and all of these terms that are associated with mental health. But when I started to work on this all in my head, I think my perception of mental health changed, and it really made me to be very empathetic and, try and dig deeper and see what we can do. But at the same time, I also sort of started to lose myself because, the project is really heavy. You go and you interview 10 people in the space of 2 weeks. And so you're collecting all these people's pain. And there's really not much you can do. So that weighs you down. And then it keeps, it gets really heavy. So one of the things I started to do a year after I started working on the project was to find other really, little subject matter that isn't heavy, it's not so serious. It's just there, just to balance things out, especially because working on that project started to affect me mentally. I can't afford therapy. I'm a freelancer. Sometimes we get jobs, sometimes we don't get jobs. So yes, I happen to be in Zaria. Zaria is somewhere in the northern part of Nigeria, in Kaduna State. And, I started living in Abuja in 2015, and I'm greatly inspired by the colors when I work in the northern part of Nigeria. And then there was the Salah celebration around the corner, and I saw this really beautiful building. And I was like, oh, I know that there will be so many beautiful hijabis. There'll be so many people wearing these colorful hijabis. I would like to use this space to photograph people. And then I did something around this space, just using this space alone. And it was so beautiful. It was so playful. I enjoyed it. I had fun doing it. But because of imposter syndrome, I didn't get to, oh, my screen is gone. Because of imposter syndrome, I didn't get to share this work up until this year, because I did it last year, but I didn't have as much confidence in the work. And then this year I was looking at it and I was like, oh, this project looks good. I think I should share it with everyone. And then I shared it. So I called it Colors of the North. And then for my last image, this is, okay, I think my screen, hello, can you hear me? Can you see my screen?
I think it's coming up.
Okay, thank you. And also, I just want to be sure that I'm here, that you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so in the interim, as the screen is coming up, I work on. I have some other unpublished projects I wanted to share, but I was like, oh, let me keep it in the background. When it's time, I'll let it out. But the image that is coming up, is from the last. One of the projects I recently published on my website. I call it Nigeria at 60. And it's images created during the recent EndSARS protests that happened across Nigeria. This particular protester just drew me in. And basically this protester, this image is just, in line with the name of the project, Nigeria 60. I called it Nigeria 60 because just a few days after Nigeria turned 60, the EndSARS protest happened. I think, especially this time around, this year, October 1st, 2020, there was a somber mood generally around Nigeria, Nigeria's anniversary or independence celebration. First and foremost, we've had the pandemic. A lot of businesses had, crashed. There was just so much going on. And then bad governance, is obviously rocking our country. And then I feel that there were talks online, and before you know it, we were on the streets, we were protesting. And out of all the images that I took during the protest, this one I love, because this, to me, he looked like he was holding something so precious, something that probably causing him pain, but it's so precious. Well, yeah, this is just me talking about some of my works. I work on different subject matter. Some of them I'm keeping in the, they're still a work in progress. I probably will share next year or whenever. I'm just taking my time. I'm heavily invested in working on personal projects. So I try to hustle doing freelance work, but then I pour back my money into my personal project because, that's the only way that I can really express myself, when I take my time to work on personal stories. That's all for my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Etinosa. You've been, it's great to see you've been busy this year. I'm always impressed.
I have.
Got super busy during the pandemic.
Thank you.
Wonderful. I just wanted to come back a little bit on how like No Wahala magazine and Everyday Africa, first how No Wahala magazine came to being in this crazy year, and how Everyday Africa also, how do you, when this pandemic happened, what happened? Did you gather and then you say, okay, are we continue photographing? How do we survive this together? How can we put stories to share out there? I think there's also a lot of successes, as you all show, that happened this year despite this really terrible crisis. So Casey, can you just reflect a little bit on how you actually came up with a magazine? Congratulations on this such a crazy year. It must have been a crazy ride. So just, yeah, if you can share with us a little bit of insights on the process and both the success and the challenges. I think we can really both learn from that.
Yeah. No Wahala magazine. Maybe I can also like show the website on the screen share.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to figure this out. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. A moment, please. Okay. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we see the website.
Is it full screen?
No, we see your windows. I don't know how. Don't know how you could put it into full screen. But we can see it well.
Okay. Yeah. So No Wahala magazine started like I and my wife just returned from the UK just before the lockdown. Like we came back the day that Nigeria kind of closed their borders, and it was really a scary time for everyone. Like Itinosa have also mentioned, it was really a scary time for everyone. But like being I and my wife, we kind of were stuck in the house for 14 days, for isolation. And then the government also announced another mandatory 14 days. So like in the end, we came back, we couldn't even go outside because like it kept on adding, 14 more days, another 14 more days. And for a second, I was like, is this how the world is going to end? Glad it didn't end yet. But yeah, like, so whilst we were on that, whilst we were isolating, and my wife is also like very, very much interested in the whole ethics of visual storytelling. She wrote a dissertation on that in her uni. So she's very, very passionate about the whole ethics around storytelling. And it was also more like an opportunity for her to kind of express herself in that regard. Because she got a full-time job working as a communications person in NGO, but it wasn't really the visual storytelling thing for her. So she kind of said, oh, you know what, maybe we should start a photography magazine since there isn't much here in Africa. Like we researched, we didn't see much. So that's how we started No Wahala magazine. And the whole idea behind it, like I mentioned earlier, is to be able to share our own stories. Because there is this thing in international publishing, there is usually like more like let's say an international appeal for stories before editors can pick it up. So with No Wahala magazine, it's just the theme. So once you produce a work around that theme, we would show it. But also, we started off the first few weeks, first few months producing content on the website, which you can see here, featuring photographers and their work, and also like showing what's it called? Showing sharing resources and opportunities. There were tons of them during the whole pandemic. Everyone was giving out money, for freelancers to survive. I got some myself. So it was really, really helpful that though there weren't like much local sources giving money, but like, there were lots of opportunities. So we're sharing most of these opportunities with like our audience, that, hey, you can apply for this, you can apply for that. But most importantly, we're also like interviewing photographers about their work and kind of understanding. I think the first story my wife, the first article my wife wrote was for Itinosa's project, Protect Thyself, or so. Yeah, so which was really, really interesting. But yeah, that was basically what it was all about. Kind of, serving like more like also like a safe place. That's the first edition, but like, that's the essence of No Wahala magazine. You don't feel like it's an outsider thing. You feel like, it's your own thing. You're part of it. And, my wife and I didn't want it to be just an online magazine. We wanted it to, come in print because, there is this feeling of, I think I have a copy here. There is this feeling of, like having your pictures, in print. It's just super interesting, and we didn't want that. But print is not cheap, so so for the most part of what we're doing at No Wahala magazine, we're funding it ourselves. So for the print, we couldn't do it ourselves, so we did a fundraising to raise some money for the print, and a lot of people showed up and supported, and yeah, so that's where we are at the moment. Sustainability, we're looking at seeing ways, because we want it to be free. We want the magazine to continue to be free. So we are looking for ways to kind of incorporate advertising to be able to continue to print. So like the idea of the magazine is also people don't take it home. So we just go to popular art spaces, cafes, where young people usually hang out. And, we drop these magazines there. They can easily walk in and have a read and drop it back. So if you want to have a copy, then you probably download the PDF version. So for this first issue, we printed 500 copies. Maybe going forward, it might be less, but the most important thing is, we are always making prints, no matter how small it is, and making it available in places where people can actually stop by to have a read. Yeah, so I hope I've been able to like shed light on your question.
Yeah, definitely. And there's so many amazing things of what you said, like this idea of safe place. It's such a powerful idea, especially this year, and the fact that everyone is welcome to submit to the magazine. And I think that's really powerful, and also really like the idea that you're dropping a magazine anywhere, anyone can pick it up, read it, and then put it back, and then therefore inspiring like a whole new generation of storytellers that can see this magazine and say, oh, this is homebred, this is possible. So it's really, really inspiring. And yeah, I would watch it closely, and I hope to get my hand on one copy. I would be in touch with you. I would, yeah, it would be really great.
Yeah, we can send you a copy.
Yes,
We can
definitely.
send you a copy, yeah.
So big congrats, and yeah, I really look forward to seeing it. Vasera, you were gone, but now you're back. Like, can you tell us a little bit how the Everyday Africa community survived this year? As usual, there was a lot of really nice opportunities to share the stories of what the members were living. And in a way, this pandemic also made us so vulnerable and in a way closer to each other. Like, is that a feeling that you felt during this year with Everyday Africa? And how did you like also supported each other in this year?
Yeah, I think the advantage of being in a collective is just sharing the different experiences that we have, as much as they feel very varied and like different because of geographical differences. There are many similarities when you look through the conversations that we've been having over the past few months. I think one of the beautiful things that has come out of these challenging times is the opportunity that we've had to just communicate a little bit more, because not only are we not unfortunately we are not on the ground as often as we were in the past few years, but we have the luxury of community. We have the privilege of just being connected some way through the internet, and therefore like we can get to host some few conversations that are not only about the challenges and the challenges of work, but also the challenges we have as artists and as individual human beings. So I think even the opportunity that we have through just communicating on either WhatsApp groups or even like individual chats just help us think through the human like similarities in like the global challenge that there is, and also try to think through how even in this time we can collaborate or look through our previous work and see what potential there is even in the archived projects. So I think it's a light in like a dark time to be able to just be a part of a community. And I hope that photojournalists and visual creatives around the world get to be part of collectives and communities so that they can know they're not alone. It is a similar journey that we are all working together, though of course with different dynamics. And when we get to communicate with each other, even though on online platforms, we can get to learn from each other and just feel a little bit closer. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, wonderful. I wanted to ask a question to you, Etinosa, because I saw this year you actually also fundraised for the community in Nigeria, the photographer community, to have like gears during the protest, but also I think you fundraised or with a group of people to help photographers during the pandemic. Like, how did you come about to do that, and it was successful? Like, how did you manage to fundraise and like to kind of also have this idea of, no, we are going through a hard time, but we actually want to help each other out? And yeah.
Okay. So I think that the fundraising that we did was to purchase protective gear, equipment for journalists that were covering the NSAS movement. But I don't know the COVID one, because I also need fundraising. My account was in dire need during the pandemic, so I don't think that I did any fundraising for that. But okay, so we started the NSAS project, and the whole thing happened in like 1 minute all of us were on Twitter talking about the, as I said before, is shortly after the independence, there was a killing in, can't remember the state now. And then there was this whole agitation on Twitter, and the next thing we're on the street. And then as a journalist, we had to do, a call to duty, because also as genuinely fed up of, police brutality. I have not been a victim, and I don't want to be a victim before I start to talk about it. And then we started to go out. And every day that I go to the field, I'll come back, and the first thing I'll do is I'll say my prayers. I say, God, thank you for bringing him back, because it was really risky. Anything could have happened, in a split second. There were times when I saw colleagues who were beat up by police officers, had their cameras smashed. Colleagues who, had a broken, I have a friend whose sister had a broken skull, after being beaten up. There were times when I would be walking alone, looking for a taxi to go home. And then I'll see police officers who had seen me covering the protest looking at me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, let them not come for me, And then there was this day, one of my colleagues, Benson Ibe Abuchi, he's in Lagos, he had mentioned, people stop asking us for free work. Because when the pandemic was happening, everyone was reaching out to journalists. Can you send us pictures? Can you do all of these things? And then he talked about, oh, please don't ask us for free work. We're doing so much. We're putting our life, at risk. And I just retweeted what he said. And I said, please, sort of like agreeing to what he was saying. And then I said, we also need PPEs. And I remember this woman on Twitter, all of these things happened actually just on social media, Twitter to be specific. And then this lady on Twitter, I think she's a professor or something, I don't know, can't remember now, but we follow each other. And then she said, how can we help? Do you want to do a fundraiser? And then I've never thought of fundraising because, I don't know how that works. I've never done it before. And I think it's a whole lot of energy. And then I said, oh, yes, I think that would be nice to get a fundraiser. Then we can use to, procure protective equipment. So I reached out to her, but, and then Polly Irungu, who founded Black Women Photos, also reached out to me in my DM. She slid into my DM on Twitter, and she said, how can I help? And I said, okay, I'm in talks with somebody on starting a fundraiser, but I was wondering if you could set up, maybe you can be the one to help me set up this fundraiser, because in Nigeria, we cannot set up a fundraiser from Nigeria. And then just before, in like some seconds, she just sent me a link. I set it up. I was like, huh? And then that's how we went. And it took us about 11 hours because I was also busy at the time. Just after the protest, I was about to travel. And then we shared it, and that's it. The whole community, the photography community in different parts of the world. I must commend people that are non-Nigerians who also shared it. It's not just Nigerians that were sharing it. Daniela Zachman from Women Photograph, people were sharing, and then it kept getting, seen. And before you know it, I think we raised the money in less than 24 hours. That's the major, I need to highlight that in my CV. Major career goal, raising 10,000 USD in 24 hours, and it was very interesting. And I that sort of made me see the reason why as this platform, especially the social platform, we need to actually collaborate. I always tell people, I don't know how you use your social platform, but for me, I see it as a space and an opportunity to collaborate. Polly is in the US, I'm in Nigeria. I have never met her like person to person meeting, but she reached out and I said yes. I've been following her when she started, when she founded, before she officially put like the website for Black Women Photo. We started following each other, and when she put out the call for Black Women Photo, I was like, oh, I'd like to be a part of it. We occasionally talk, not on a very like level where I'll say, oh, she's my friend, but this is what happened just by connecting to somebody, making use of the opportunity, especially social media. And then a lot of the people that were sharing, who now got the fund to have more visibility, were people that I also follow on social media. And also because, before the NSAF protest, there's also the Black Lives Matter protest that happened in the US. So a lot of people from the Black community, Nigerians in diaspora, were also sharing it. And, I think that for me, what happened with that fundraiser was just, like the essence of collaborating, the essence of making good use of the social space, especially like in the pandemic. We don't have, maybe if there was no pandemic, maybe, Market for and WordPress would have taken us to, one of these countries and we're having the discussion. But now we're in a different countries having all of these discussions. I have not met Wasiria, but I've spoken to her countless times, and it feels like we have met each other. And that's why I always tell people, leverage your social media well. You just don't know. I don't go about building relationships or because of what I think I can get from people, but I just never know what my relationship with these people will bring. And I feel like it was a community effort. It takes a village. That fundraiser, if I had come out on my own to say, support Nigerian journalists, I don't know if anybody will have answered me alone. Maybe I would have had some people, but I think because there was a collaboration somewhere far away, with somebody who was also, who is also doing important work for especially Black women photographers and in different parts of the world, and then here in Nigeria, that just sort of solidified the whole thing and made people to donate. So yeah, that's what happened. It took a village. Definitely, it wasn't one person's effort. It was everyone, and I'm using this to officially say thank you to everyone who contributed. Yeah, that's it.
Wow, amazing. There is so much truth in what you said. This idea of, we always think of social media as a space. Oh, it's online. But actually, it becomes real, and it becomes resources, and it becomes solidarity, and it becomes concrete efforts, and it's really, really amazing. And these transnational connections that are happening are just making the photographers stronger and the community, and it's really beautiful. I don't know, Casey, if you want to bounce back on that, like you were when we were talking yesterday to prepare a little bit, you were saying that you attended so many Magnum workshops this year. What's for you? What were the opportunities of also like this online life and crisis?
Yeah, like I will always say, I think the pandemic has also kind of created opportunities. Though, I mean, it's not like I would say I prefer we have the pandemic so that I will have the opportunities I have. But like, because there is a lot of online resources at the moment, and there is a lot of things going on virtual. So it has kind of created space for more, for more engagements. There are workshops I attended that, normally I would need to fly down to the US, Chicago or something to attend. But because this year's, because of the pandemic, they had to do it online, and I had to attend. Because I mean, sometimes it's not just about the workshop, it's also about the expenses that you incur attending some of these workshops. And also there has also been a lot of like scholarships or opportunities for Africans. I've seen some at Magnum. I've attended really very amazing like value workshop with Magnum, and it was interesting. Like I was the only African, probably the only, okay, not the only Black, but like the only African. But like I guess that if there wasn't a pandemic this year, maybe these opportunities wouldn't have sprung up the way they did. So yeah, the pandemic has its own negatives, but it also has its own positives, especially in the photography industry. It has also created an opportunity for local photographers to be hired. I got tons and tons of emails from photographers, not even editors or something, photographers telling me, hey, can you travel to, they want to outsource an assignment they have booked already, but
I've never heard about this. What? So a photographer contacts you to kind of outsource their own assignment.
Yeah, true. I've had so many of that instances where because of the travel restrictions, at least I got like 2 emails. I did one job as a result of that because there were travel restrictions and the person couldn't travel down. So he said, okay.
And how did you feel about that? Did you feel that was like, did what they proposed you was fair? Like, you know, I mean, it's, did you end up doing it?
Yeah, one was for an organization, for an NGO, but they have their own internal photographer. But, you know, because of the travel restrictions, he couldn't come down to Nigeria. Then the second one was, you know, the person has an assignment also in Liberia, and he was hoping I could, you know, because of the whole travel. And I'm like, you know, the travel restriction affects me as well, in as much as I'm in Nigeria. But, you know, whether or not I'm doing an assignment because who was supposed to do it is not available, you know, you pay me my fees, you know, and the funny thing is that, like, you know, now that the whole travel restrictions have been lifted, the photographer actually flew down to Nigeria to take the similar pictures I made already. You know, it's the funny thing. And but I don't care, you know, like I got paid, you know, they were amazing to work with. But it kind of just shows how, you know, this whole pandemic kind of have made more local photographers get hired. And, you know, because if there is travel restriction, you can't travel, story needs to be told, you know, and you probably need to raise money with those pictures. So you definitely need to find who can tell the story, you know. So it has been an interesting mix, and you know, it's really, really funny that he still came back to Nigeria to take exactly the same like the same people I already photographed. Like, you know, it's funny, but yeah, yeah, the pandemic has its own opportunities and its own. But I mean, I think the most part is also like the mental toll, because I and my wife were living in a very small apartment earlier, so it's kind of like was like crazy. You know, we would usually hang out in the car or something, you know, just to change the environment. I think I featured one of the pictures from that project. Yeah, so I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we would usually like hang out in the car because we were so bored of staying indoors, staying in one room apartment. So, but yeah.
Yeah, it resonates a lot with everything that you said. Also with what's at WordPress Photo and the education, we've also, you know, thought about, like, when the pandemic happened, we were like, what happened to our workshops and the Taught masterclass and flying everyone in like for 1 week, and actually, you know, it's really also for me it was like no way we are going to skip a year, because that's actually this year that we need each other the most, and to support. And also that's why we pushed the participants from 12 to 24. It was so much more work, but it was so so valuable. And actually sometimes there was a lot of conversations around mental health. There was a lot of projects about mental health, and the sessions were sometimes therapy sessions, support group, and it was very, very special in that sense. And also showing how precious this, even if they are ephemeral, this workshop, I know the community will go on, you know. And it's also this question, great that they are hiring more local photographers, but like, how we can actually make it sustainable, and that there's a structural shift in the mentality, not just because of the pandemic. So this kind of community spirit, how do we sustain it on the long run and build on? So that's like things that I have in my mind after this year, also working online and spending countless hours on Zoom, like we all did. Yeah, Vasera, I don't know if you want to like bounce back on this, or what's your experience this year, because we've seen a lot of projects from the Everyday Africa photographers actually online. And was it an initiative from them, or how did the collaboration, for example, with then and now, and also the personal images were really powerful, I thought. How did this come around?
I think just to reiterate what Etinosa mentioned, like collaboration has been key. This year we have approached the storytelling process much differently than before, and especially through brainstorming with each other, our ideas. And I feel that's what has made the stories much stronger. We have also tried to put in our little disciplines aside, because now we cannot be precious about movement because of all these restrictions. So of course I feel like sometimes photography has played a supporting role like in storytelling, but this year like we have been front and center, because that's how people have gotten to see what is going on around the world, because now it's the medium that does not do so much alteration. It's very straight to the point and truthful. And also with photographers who are also focusing on telling authentic localized stories, I think it has made the storytelling process a little bit more richer, a little bit more authentic. But aside from the storytelling aspect of like the project managing side, I think collaboration was still very key, because we are not only figuring out how to tell these stories on this new format, but we are developing the project itself, from pre-production throughout to the end, through archiving. So we are living, I think, in an exciting time for visual journalism, because I think we now have the tools. We are now utilizing the tools that are with us to connect not only with each other, but with our audiences like we have never before. And it's really hard because, of course, the algorithm has never been on our side, as we see that every day. But I think it is we are fortunate because we have, as I mentioned earlier, the luxury of community. Like we are not in this alone. We are here together. So I think seeing when other people see this in the journalism ecosystem, such as like designers, editors, curators, producers, they get to see that their stories become more richer with African storytellers in the center. So that is what has been exciting about being able to churn out projects healthily and like still being excited about producing them, because other people are also seeing the value of centering us like in the project production process.
Yeah, beautiful. And Etinosa, is that something that you noticed this year, like in terms of assignments? Did you also get more assignments, like Casey was saying, or how was how is your relationship with like the international media industry at the moment, and in relation also to being part of like, you know, women photograph and like diversified photo and all these amazing communities which are like changing the rules and pushing for more inclusivity, but also fairness in pay and everything. Like, is that, do you think there is like a change, or how do you see this advocacy playing out in also in your professional life or in the assignments that you get?
Okay, so first off, I just want to quickly clarify. I see a question in the chat box. Are we at any point going to answer questions? Someone asked me a question.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
after that we can answer the question from Arlette.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to be sure. Now, going to the question. To answer the first question, like Casey mentioned, I think I got an opportunity, and I found out that the opportunity was because the people that were supposed to come for the assignment couldn't travel. And, so they had to work with African, media people. So it was, a filmmaker, myself as the photographer, and then a sound artist. But ideally, what they had planned to do was to come with their crew. But, the pandemic happened and everybody stayed in your place. So I didn't get as much work this year, but, because that was another thing. already my year was planned out from last year, and then this year happened, and that makes me not want to even plan 2021 because I don't know what happened in 2021. But it was good to an extent. The pandemic affected me mentally, financially, mentally again, because man, I think I lost myself. But it also, provided opportunities. I have been able to be part of discussions that I probably would never have had access to if there was no pandemic. Because most times, some of these institutions, they'll probably just work with people in, within their vicinity, just flying one or two people and then use people there. But I have had access to, being on some of these panel discussions because, now everybody were inside our house. So it's easier to just reach out to people and say, oh, would you like to be a part of it? Although there's a challenge, like you saw this morning, I've been struggling with like 4 different internet connections just to be able to get, to be able to be on this. But yeah, on to your other question regarding platforms like Women Photograph, APJD. I think that it's really good that we're having these platforms. Sometimes one of the things I also do, I check myself, I always say, well, we'll continue to demand more from some of these institutions, but at the same time, we must celebrate the fact that they have done the groundwork for us. When people ask me things like, oh, how is it being a woman in the industry? Do you have difficulties? I'm like, I don't know. I used to get work. I can't really relate, because I've not had struggle because of me. I have not had, yes, there have been little things there, here and there. I've not paid attention to that, but I feel like these platforms, especially like Women Photograph and the other platforms, Everyday Africa, they have, paved way for people. They have put, for example, Women Photograph is saying women can do the work, but maybe because I started getting jobs, and I don't know what it was like 10 years ago to be a woman photographer. But now I know that I can see the benefits of, highlighting the voices of women and non-binary people, saying that we are here, we can make work. It's not only men. Women Photograph would encourage people to apply for opportunities that we know that predominantly men are the ones that would want to be in those opportunities. And now it's also about, because there's always this talks, some, I've worked with some editors or communication specialists or whatever, and so they say, I want to work with you because you're a woman. I really want to see women doing this type of work. There's a lot to take from it. I feel that things are improving. There's still so much to be done. I also feel that there's really like so much to be done in terms of providing. I mean, the groundwork is being done. It's still a work in progress, but we can still do more than what we are doing. But you didn't ask that question, so I don't want to jump into another.
Actually, that was like one of my follow-up questions. But how can we also, as an institution like WordPress Photo, we have the 6x6 talent program, the EPJD. How can we also do better, and how can we collaborate better? I think that's also a key word. So, if you want to add on that, please go ahead.
Okay. All right. So when we have platforms like WordPress 6x6 that highlights talent, doesn't mean that we don't have talents in Africa. Oh my goodness, I feel so blessed to be a 6x6 talent because I know people who are way talented than me. Oh, I'm sorry. I think
we can still hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, my battery just went low. But I also feel that aside from highlighting and saying, okay, you're a 6x6 talent, then what? What happens after really being, how are you? I feel that apart from giving these platforms, how are you? So let me use this illustration. For example, one of the things I've noticed, because I work with NGOs, this is not me calling out any NGO, but I'm just saying things the way it is. I see that a lot of NGOs will say, oh, we are donating a tap, or we're donating sewing machines or what now? Kits to women to empower them, but then you don't give them money to have like capital to get things. So you've helped them, but you have not really solved their problem. You're just giving them more problem because now they have the sewing machine, but she doesn't have money to be able to buy other equipment that she needs. So you say that I'm a talent or you do this. It's good. It's good on my CV. I really like it on my CV. But then what happens after that? How am I going to improve myself with this platform? What are the things that you're doing to help me to also to be able to, you know, to be like, because to an extent, how are we competitive, you know, to be able to compete with my colleagues. And when I say compete, I don't mean unhealthy competition in terms of applying for WordPress photo. No, what I mean is the same way that the Western media is always rushing for people in different parts of the world. I also want them to be able to rush for us, not just to shoot or to work on stories here in Africa, but to carry me over, you know, to say, come and work with us here. What are the things that we need to do? How can you, how can we have not just conversations? If there are things that I need to learn, because I don't know what else to do again. How are you supporting our work? You know, as a talent, are you saying that, okay, with this talent, you have a project, maybe there's some sort of workshop, or we're reviewing your project, we're connecting you to platforms that can give your project visibility, you know. I'm not talking about outside of social media. I'm talking about outside of social media now. We're saying we're connecting you to institutions. You know, I think that another thing that I noticed, some journalists are not, especially for, no, I don't want this to come off wrongly. So let me just say my mind. But how are you connecting us to institutions where, you know, we're not just seeing online, but we're ahead. We're seeing that we can make the work. I mean, these institutions always have connections. So how are you putting us into that chain, that connection that you have? You know, not just giving us that name. And because when people see that name, it's like, oh, they're big, they're whatever, but there's nothing. How does it enrich us? You know, how does it enrich our knowledge? How does it enrich our network? And all of that. So I feel like doing workshops, or actually, first of all, engaging with the people that we give the awards to say, what do you want? What do you think that we can do? You know, how do you think that we can do this? And then listening to us and actually acting on it will be good. Yeah, I think that's what I want to say. I'm trying to be careful so that I don't say things wrongly, because I might mean it in a good way, but it might come off wrongly.
No. Don't worry. It's great to hear that, and I think I agree. Like, first we listen, and then we, you know, like, actually that's the first step.
Put it to action, you know? Yeah. It's like the call to action. You listen, and then we see action. Because I see that a lot of people are listening. We're all good listeners in the world, but it's just like my project. I've been working on my project, and then it depresses me because I'm like, nothing is changing, you know? And then people are asking me, what impact has your project made? I'm like, I don't think it's making... I mean, I feel like people are seeing the conversation is going, but the things have not changed. You know, there's still violence. There's still no provision for psychosocial support for a lot of people outside of certain regions in Nigeria. You know, there's still a whole lot of things. We're still not talking about mental health, and not just talking about mental health, but actually making it a part of us, you know, making it accessible and affordable. So it's not just listening, but doing something after listening. Yeah.
Thank you, Etinosa.
Thank you.
I want also to hear from Casey and Vasera. What do you think, Casey, around like local and international institution collaboration, and how, you know, we can collaborate and work better? Do you agree with Etinosa? You've been like one of the first EPJD member, you know, like I remember when you signed up, and I was in touch with you, and then you told me you got an assignment from the platform, and it was like, you really made my day because it's so great to be able to get this feedback, because we share the platform, we share the EPJD with so many photo editors and NGOs. Like every day we receive emails, so we know it's being used like a lot, and sometimes it's hard to trace back okay, how actually impactful it is. So I think we also have like work to do to be better at like tracing actually what was the impact, but we know there is. And yeah, what's your opinion around also what Etinosa was talking about?
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting, and at the same time, you know, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. Yeah, African photojournalism database, you know, is I mean, WordPress photo is a big platform, so Everyday Africa too. So anything that they stand behind obviously is going to gain some form of traction. So the platform has really been nice. I think rather than, my own suggestion in terms of African photojournalism database is also making it easy for people to just, on the website where you listed all the names, maybe if it's possible for people to just click and gain access to the photographer, maybe to the photographer's website and all that. I think, it might also be helpful. Then in terms of, honestly, I don't know how to, I don't know. I look inward as a person, so I'm not the type of person like, I didn't create WordPress photo, I didn't create any of these guys. So whatever that is done, no matter how little, I appreciate it, because it's not my platform. You know what I mean? So personally, I think, much has been done, and I believe more should be done to kind of forge new collaborations and new ways that we can be seen. So that's what I'm doing with No Wahala magazine. And in terms of collaboration, it would be nice to have support from WordPress photo. It would be nice to have support from big photography platforms, and it would be nice to introduce, because it's a community, so it's more like you can come from the outside and and do stuff. So to have more of this collaboration, to have more of this synergy where the stuff that is going on here is seen on the global scale, in the global level, I think it would be very much welcome. But yeah, like I said, I look inward. So I've been working as a photographer for over like 4 years now, going to 5 years, and most of the clients I work with are international publications, like international NGOs, so looking inward, what happened to local newspaper and magazines, why don't they have funding for photographers? Why do they still download pictures of Google and use it on their publications, So there is still a lot of work to be done internally. But to be honest, I appreciate any effort that is made globally or internationally, in that regard. So
I appreciate, and it's, as you said, about finding synergies. I like that word, and keeping the conversation to know how we can work better together. Also, for example, in promoting No Wahala magazine, and keep the conversation going. And actually, you're talking about the problem, and actually, you are also proposing a solution with what you're doing, which is really amazing. Etinosa, do you want?
I just need to I want to quickly answer the question because there's a question in the chat box that needs. And then secondly, I appreciate everybody. I don't want anybody to think I don't appreciate what you guys are doing.
No.
I really appreciate WordPress. I'm just saying, in case you get me, I appreciate everyone, because I really think that, you guys are doing the work. And like he rightly said, there's still a lot of work to be done. But let me go straight to this question here from Alet. Thank you so much, Alet, for asking this. Oh shit. Thank you so much for asking this question. Okay. Okay, so I started working on this all in my head in 2018. Now I went for a movie screening. Can you hear me? Hi guys, can you hear me? Okay, so I went for a movie screening in February 2018, if I'm not mistaken, and it was called Salam Nebo. It was about Syrian refugees living in Jordan at the time. And then there was a young boy in the documentary who used to follow the movie producers everywhere. And at some point, the movie producers were like, why are you not in school? Why don't you want to go to school? And then he started to stay away from them because he didn't even want to entertain the question about school. But after they persuaded him a bit, he opened up that he was scared because, he had witnessed bombing in schools back in Syria, and then sort of it had affected him mentally. And then after that discussion, they were able to put him back to school. I can't remember if they found therapy for him. Now, at the time that I watched that documentary, 2017 was when I started practicing as a photographer. Before then, I used to just take pictures. But when I resigned from my job in 2017, I decided, it was in March 2017, I wanted to do photography. One of the things I used to do, I had this camera. I would learn online. Then I would go to places. Because one of the reasons that sort of stirred up my interest in photography was how can I felt like I saw it as a tool that I can use to lend my voice to some of the things that are happening in my society. Whether change will happen, I used to say to create change, but I don't know, change doesn't come as easy as we want it. So, we do it slow and steady. And then one of the things I used to do was I go to communities within Abuja there. That time I really didn't have money. So I'll save up money after a long time and I'll go to these communities. I'll have discussions with them. I'm not like a street photographer. I don't go to communities and start taking pictures. I have discussion. What are the issues here? How can we improve? Okay. And before, at that time, I'd met a lot of people living in internally displaced persons camp here in Abuja who have been displaced by the ongoing Boko Haram insurgency. After watching that documentary, at that moment, it hit me. I've been having this discussion. I had talked to people who were millionaires and now they're living in. I remember this man who had so much money, but when I met him in 2017, he was living in just a 2-room apartment with 14 family members. And this was someone who had money. He was a headmaster. He was well respected in his community. I can't remember where he comes from now, but he was from Borno State. And so it really resonated with me watching that. Oh, my battery. Watching that documentary. One of the things I found out was I started to ask myself, is anyone having questions around what is happening to their mental health? And then I decided, you know what, I'm going to start this project. And then I had a small paper and jotter and a biro, and I wrote it's all in my head, exploring the coping mechanisms of survivors of terrorism. When I started the project, my focus was on survivors of the ongoing Boko Haram insurgency. The first set of interviews, it took me a lot to be able to, okay, let me answer the second question. You asked about why I use double exposure. I also think that my battery will soon die. I only think about presentation. And before I started this project, I just come from a mentorship class hosted by Uche Okpairoha, is one person I really admire and respect in the Nigerian industry. He's an artist, a visual artist. And the way that he spoke about photography made me know that I could push myself. So I started researching, how do I show people what's going on in their head, because mental health is not like malaria. It's not like a stomach upset. You don't see it. It's there, but you can't see it, And then I was online and I was researching. I was on YouTube. And then I saw something about double exposure. I didn't even look at double exposure. And I was like, ooh, this looks good. This looks like something I can use for my projects. Then before then, I'd also seen Daniela Zalkman's work, but I didn't even remember Daniela Zalkman's work, Signs of Your Identity. And I was like, this is the same thing as that work. I didn't know what it was called. I'd seen it because I was only in photography. I didn't know that it's called double exposure, but I'd seen it. Then I remembered her work and I was like, this would be the best way to show what's going on in their head. What I would do is to objectify what you're feeling and then layer it to their image. When I started it, it was just, anyhow. But as I continued to work on the project, I became more intentional in the way that I was putting together, the project. So basically, I'm trying to answer your question. Yes, I mentioned Daniel Zachman's work, which I now found out what that technique was called after seeing the YouTube documentary. And the project keeps evolving. I remember in October 2018, I was somewhere in Jos. I was traveling again for the project. And I was like, man, it's getting really difficult to continue to. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, because my battery is about to die. Okay, so it's getting really difficult to continue to to just present those works as a set of images, because I remember there was a particular woman I'd met, and she talked about how, you know, two of her children died when there was a crisis, they drowned. And she said to lose a child, it hurts like fire. It's worse than, you know, fire. Words cannot, you know, nothing can bring them back. You know, there was the way that she said it. I can't remember. I have it written down. And then I knew that I cannot continue to present this work just as images, because it's incredibly difficult to continue to, you know, it's emotions, you know. And then in October 2018, I was there and I was having insomnia and I was traveling to continue to work on this project. And then I kept thinking, I was like, how do I really show? Because I want people to see this project and feel them. I want you to, you know, I mean, let me start from somewhere. I might not be able to create the change that I want to see, but at least let me start from that place. I want you to look at these images and look at this work and, you know, let it continue to be in your memory and maybe push you to say you want to do something about the current situation. And I remember I just heard this voice say, double exposure videos. And I was like, what's that? This was around 4 a.m. I was having insomnia. And I've been thinking about my project. How do I move it forward? So I go online and I check double exposure videos. It took a while, but I found something called cinemagraphs. And I was like, oof, this is what I'm doing for my project. And that's how I started to show, because with that, where I could not use, you know, layers of images to tell the story or to say what, you know, I'm trying to say, to describe the person's feeling, then I could use motion and I could use sound. Yeah, so basically, and the project keeps evolving, because next year I'm actually going to experiment with more styles in which I'm presenting the work. We hope that next year will be better. Then you said that, what is the advice for documentary, a beginner in documentary photography? I would say read widely, because I also started in 2017. Read widely. I didn't have money when I started, but I always borrowed data. In Nigeria, you can borrow data. Then I'll go on YouTube and I'll read articles about photography. Also get a mentor, and you don't need to officially reach out and say, I want you to be my mentor. But if there's someone you greatly admire, it doesn't even have to be in your home country. It could be anywhere from different parts of the world. One of the things I always do, like I mentioned, social media. I don't joke with social media. I owe my growth to social media. One of the things I always used to do, I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Okay. One of the things I always used to do, I slide into people's DM. I'm like, you know, I'm a fan of your work. I was wondering if you have time for a chat. I'd like to ask you some questions. And that's how I've been able to grow myself. Andrea Sebo was the first photographer I ever spoke to, a Nigerian photographer I actually saw. And then, excuse me. Then I reached out to him, and somehow I haven't officially told him you're my mentor, but you know, he's my mentor. You know, I always reach and ask questions. Finding a mentor is really important, because these people have been here before you. They understand things better than you do. And especially when you're starting out, people want to exploit you. I mean, accept that people will exploit you anyway, because I accepted it. You know, and then there are times when you feel stuck. I remember up to tomorrow, I feel so grateful to Andrew, because one of the things he always hammered in me was work on your personal projects. And which he also mentioned that. And that's why I'm really happy, because I see myself, no matter how much I do assignments and all of that, I always tell myself, babe, you're doing the assignment, but you know, your focus is on your personal project, drumming it into my ear. And so far, I can see how, you know, the freedom that comes with working in personal project. So if there's someone you genuinely admire, please find them. And one of the things I always used to do, I remember when I started this all in my head, I reached out to people that I'd never met in different parts of the world that I just admire. I said, this is my project. What do you think about it? And they gave me feedback. I showed my project. I didn't even have a website when I started this project. But because I showed Tom Sate, he looked at my work. He's like, where is this work? And I was like, I don't have a website. Like, go find a website. Put this on a website, you know? Show people your work, put yourself out there. Nobody's going to do it for you. You are the one who has to do it for yourself. You have to market yourself. You have to be, me, I'm an aggressive marketer. I go into people's DM. I accept the fact that some people might not, because they are busy. Everybody have busy schedules. They might not have the time to respond to my inquiries, but, I reach out. Unfortunately, well, for me, I don't stay in Lagos, so I didn't really have access to workshop. And at the time, I couldn't afford. It was only in 2018, I started making small money. I could not afford plane ticket and go to Lagos for workshop and all of that. But when I started, it wasn't convenient. But if you're in your state, in your city, in your country, they do workshops, please go for workshops. These workshops actually, especially now with the virtual workshop, just like you're here, attend these ones, the ones that are happening physically. If it's safe and and you can afford to go for it, please go for it. You learn so much from this workshop. It was listening to Uche that made me understand that photography wasn't just framing and composition, because the way that I was learning photography was just, you use rule of thirds and you put the this and lines and all those things. But he spoke about the power of photography. This was not about the aesthetics. This was about how powerful this tool is. And then I was like, oh, that was what made me know that I could step out of my comfort zone. I didn't need to present whatever I was thinking. At the time that I went for that mentorship class in February, they said we should bring a body of work. I didn't know what body of work is. It was so funny. Everybody brought out a work, and I noticed that they all have like similar themes. But me, I just brought out my fine pictures and printed. I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh my God, let them not look at my work. But by the next time that I'll go there, I think it was in April, I had a body of work. And that's because I attended the workshop. Don't only reach out to people in your circle. So let me tell you the thing. For me, I always like, when I get too much praises from people in my circle, I'm just like, no, I don't want it. You know why? Because people in your circle are probably just in awe of what you're doing. So they're telling you that, I said this before in another panel discussion, they're telling you the things that you want to hear, but they're probably not necessary for your growth. You need people that would shift your focus, that will tell you things. Sometimes it's uncomfortable truth, but they will help you grow. You need to read widely. If there's something that interests you, for me, I always say, find the project you're passionate about. When you're trying to do things that appear trendy, it only shows when you're not genuinely connected to the subject that you're talking about. But when you have a genuine connection, you will stay on it. I've been working on this all in my head since 2018, and I will never get tired of working on that project. The way that I'm envisioning the project and how I want to do it across continents and across, countries and across states and all, and the way that I'm developing the project is because I'm genuinely interested and invested in the project. But if I had no genuine connection, if I just wanted to do a project because I want to do a project, I would have gotten tired, especially because when it started to take a toll on my mental health. So I would say, read, find a mentor. You don't need to officially say, please be my mentor, because some people just feel like, oh, this is heavy on me. But just reach out to those people that you admire and say, I'm doing this project. Ask questions. Don't get tired of asking questions. Ask questions. Ask questions about rights. Ask questions about project direction. Ask questions. Then learn how to filter when you get answers to your questions. Because you see, not all advice is good advice. It might be good, but it might not be good for you at the time. You know what I mean? There's so much to say, but I feel like I'm already preaching,
I hope they're taking notes, because everything you've been saying is really important and really straight to the point. And I think you might become a mentor yourself, or maybe you are already. Actually,
thank you.
You're getting your fans here. And I just want to say before maybe your battery dies that first of all, your project.
It's actually plugged in now. Oh, that's why I don't have my earpiece on. So that's why I'm like talking.
I wanted to say that your It's All in My Head was like one of the projects that really stuck with me, like, and I think with a lot of people last year. And that it's wonderful, and I hope you take it further. And that we also really appreciate your feedback, about the programs. Like, really want to have a space to discuss, and there's no problem if you have feedback, because actually that's what we need, and we are all in this together. So we are going to work on that together, and it feels good. So just wanted to say that, and thank you for all your tips for the next generation. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Also, thank you for you were among the first people that published my work in 2018. That's for Witness, you know. But yeah, there's so much I want to say. So maybe you find time, I can send you a voice note because sometime in the year I send you a voice. I mean, I'll let now. We can send voice notes. I could answer. I like to talk. I don't like to write, but talking.
Okay,
I'm good at it.
Like enough emails. Let's do voice notes.
Yeah, thank you. Let's do voice notes. We don't it's too much emails.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I just want to before we wrap up, is there more questions in the chat? I'm not so good at keeping touch. No, only thank you. Okay. Like Christian, Sarah, what would be your tips for like the next generation who are listening and who might listen to that live to that discussion at some point? Or some advices that you received and that stuck with you when you were building, and we're still learning, of course, always, but if you have some key tips there.
Yeah, Itinosa have said it all, and my journey and Itinosa's journey, like it almost happened like at par, like almost at the same time. So it's it's the same thing for me with everything Itinosa have mentioned. It's also important to, I think the biggest part, and that's one of the reasons why we have No Wahala magazine, is because most people started off photography, with no formal training in this part of the world. So almost everyone just picked up a camera and they started taking pictures. I was like that myself until I started, my mom asked me a question one time. I was like, hey, you're doing this photography until you got a proper job, right? So I kind of started digging for meaning. I remember when, I attended New York Portfolio Review in New York, and, the reviewers were also like asking, why do you do photography? And, no one cares about the quality of your work. Yeah, you have good quality work. We understand that, but why do you do your work? Why do you take pictures? And the truth is, for the most part, in this part of the world, almost everyone started taking pictures, as a result of unemployment, as a result of, they're trying to make ends meet. So with No Wahala magazine, it's also like a shift from survival mode to doing something that has relevance or meaning. So it shifts from a place of I'm making pictures to get paid to I'm telling stories that are important to me. And, that's what we are hoping also to do with No Wahala magazine, to be able to educate people. We have a lot of photographers in this part of the world that can't write about their work, that can't write captions, that don't even know why they are doing a project, So, it's that educating. And I think it comes from constantly asking yourself questions, constantly, quizzing yourself and understanding why you do what you do and what drives you. But yeah, there is still a lot of work to be done. So, I understand, things have changed, like the amount of storytellers we have in Nigeria, across Africa,
I can say it's like number one community on the APJD is like Nigeria.
yeah. So like, no, Nigeria is 200 million people. So what do you?
Yeah, I concur. When I saw Nigeria, I was like, all of you.
Yeah, it's too many people here, and I mean, like also competition-wise, like Nigerians are like, if you go to any country in the world and you don't see a Nigerian, then nothing grows in that country, So, so there are Nigerians like doing good stuff. There are also Nigerians doing bad stuff. But like that's what you get with the 200 million people scattered across the globe. But yeah, like I think you just have to enjoy the process. I mean, this is what I'm telling to every young photographer that is out there. Don't rush the process, just enjoy it. If you have plans of doing this for a long time, then there shouldn't be rush, because I, there have been a lot of fellowships or workshops that I didn't have the guts to apply for in 2017. Like, I legit downloaded the form, but I couldn't apply for it because I felt I wasn't in a good place to apply for it at that time. So the truth is, give yourself time, enjoy the process, and don't do what trends. Don't, follow trend, because, trend will pass. But if you plan to do this for a long time, you have to really do something that resonates with your person and your personality. What else do I need to? Yeah, so mentorship is good, but honestly, it's not really direct mentorship. Like, oh, I get emails or messages from people telling me, oh, I want you to mentor me. And I don't understand what that means, Like, I think for the most part, people don't want to do the work. So they kind of hide under mentorship to kind of have other people do the work for them. If you have a specific question, you ask it. I'm willing to share and answer. But like, when you say mentor and mentor, I don't know what you want me to do for you, like, people come with questions, and after 6 months, 1 year, they are asking you the same questions. They haven't built on what you guys discussed about, so, it's a process, but you have to put in work. If you don't put in, I get messages from you, oh, how do you get assignments from New York Times? Like, there is no how to these things. You just have to stay on course. You just have to be dedicated. You just have to be consistent, and, these guys, publications will see you, and they will, because one thing is, when you follow trend, you don't have a style. You just end up doing what everyone would like. And if you don't have a style, publications will not hire you because they don't know what they would expect from your work. So if I get hired, I have a style. I have, a way I photograph things. So more like, the publication kind of know what to expect from my work. It's also the same thing, So I think it comes down to knowing who you are and what you're drawn to, rather than following trend. Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
Great, Casey. Thank you so much. Yeah, so many great points. And it seems like you guys are becoming mentors, even if you don't want to. And that's
But still being mentored.
It's beautiful. Like, but I agree with the fact that, like, come up with specific questions is better than turning around like, just go be specific in what you want to ask, and then they're really gonna get something out of it. And then the relationship can grow from that one question to another, and gradually, you build that. It's all about building connections and relationships, also on the long term, and that's really precious. Vasera, do you have also some tips? I know, like, at Everyday Africa, you also have amazing, like, mentorship, like, because you have photographers from different levels, and they're like helping each other out, and it's also like super precious in terms of how the education is flowing inside that collective.
I think what I'd like to share is just, yes, the idea of planning sustainability for communities. Like, it's good that eventually we want to build, like, publications that will, like, accommodate more storytellers to tell their work, but it's important that we plan for sustainability. Otherwise, you're just creating like short-term WhatsApp groups, So like it's important, like as people think through how to bring value to their collectives and their communities, like to like think through a long-term vision which has like clear goals and clear roles and expectations for all the members, so that they can find value and gain value in being part of those communities. I feel like Everyday Africa, we aim to offer some value to the photographers. Otherwise, we are just like scattered online groups. We also aim to build trust and build trusting relationships, and also share ownership amongst the storytellers, so that everyone in the team can showcase not only their skills, but they can also share the resources that they'd like to contribute to the community. It's also important that we take time to uncover like the opportunities that everyone in the community wants to like share, and to engage all the members so that they can share their areas of expertise. Also, I think even with APJD, it's important that like we remain flexible. We welcome storytellers from across the globe, and not just like the main big cities in the continent. I await when we'll add in like Togo photojournalists from Lesotho, etc. And that's the way we'll bring some genuine vibes to the community, because it's represented like all around. We also, I like this session because we've been able also to ask questions, to be open, and to make sure everyone's voice is heard equally. And also like this way we show value, and we bring some form of impact. And even though community building takes so long, like it's nothing like that will like be done in a whim and will be sustainable. Like we need to have these conversations often, so that we can hear everyone's voice, and also like measure the impact of like the quick wins that we are enjoying at the moment, and also like create some form of momentum for the future, as well as celebrating our milestones. So yeah, community building is important for us if we want to, reframe, quotes unquote, the narrative of Africa, considering that it's taken years, like through of colonialism, to put us in the place where our stories were like not only like banned from being heard, but they were banned. Like, so like it will take time to like bring back these stories to the wire, and for them to be consistent, and for them to be made by our like African-based storytellers. So yeah, I'm excited to like think through like sustainability for community, so that we can see this narrative change over time, and in a way that is valuable to the members in our communities.
Yeah, that's amazing. I wouldn't conclude with better words than this, I think. And things take time, and we have to work to build that community, to keep on that community building work that's we are all doing. And it was really a pleasure to have this discussion with you. And we will keep in touch via email, voice notes, anything that's you wish. And I hope I really wanted to also to end this like collaboration with Marketer Workshop and WordPress Photo on like a positive note, but still still staying critical and self-reflecting. And I think that's been really insightful, and I really appreciate what we have shared today. So yeah, let's keep in touch, and thank you for joining.
Thank you. I enjoyed the session. Thank you for everyone that joined in. Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Wasera. Thank you, Juliet.
Thank you, and like do apply to EPJD, do send your pictures to Wahala Magazine, do reach out, and also
Apply for everything.
everything, Everyday Africa, next open call, everything.
Yeah, it has been an amazing panel discussion, and thanks for everyone that joined. Thanks, it's Nosa.
Thank you. I think we lost Vasera, but she's here in spirit. Yeah, thank you guys, and see you soon. Take care.
All right.